On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, we're going to dive into what each young player on this Thunder roster can improve on this season, what you should be watching for in their player development. We're also going to talk about the 2022 NBA draft and what college games you should circle on your calendar. It's me, it's Richard Stayman, Mavs Draft on Twitter, host of Locked On NBA Draft. It's all coming up on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day, right after this.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Editor-in-Chief over at thunderousintentions.com. Me member Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod and email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. Joining me today is Richard Stayman at Mavs Draft on Twitter, host of Locked On NBA Draft on Tuesdays. Richard, we're back for another year of Locked On Thunder, and we're going to talk all about today the young players on this roster already and the upcoming NBA draft. But how are you feeling? We're a week away right now from the beginning of the NBA season. Of course, the season tips off on Tuesday, October 19th. However, the big one comes October 20th, whenever everybody's in action and not just the four teams that play on Tuesday. So how are you feeling right now, a week away from that big event?
Well, I got a little bit of FOMO. The Mavs still don't play until that next day, the 21st. So I got a long time waiting for that, but I'm excited for this season. I think this is the best opening day slate we've seen in a really long time. I think it's Bucks Nets is the first game, and then Warriors Lakers. It's an outstanding slate, and then obviously the first games, the Wednesday night, are going to be really good too, and then Thursday night set up well too. But I'm really excited for the season. It's the first one in a while where it just feels completely wide open, or so it feels.
It does feel wide open. It feels very interesting. I mean, of course, the Thunder won't be competing in all likelihood for that championship, but a lot of teams are. And so just off the bat, who is your title favorite and how many teams realistically do you think that right now could win a championship? Just off the top of your head, how many teams do you think can actually realistically win it and you would not be stunned?
Man, it wouldn't shock me if either of the LA teams do, depending on when Kawhi comes back. The Nets and Bucks, I mean, they're always going to be there. I feel like one of the teams in the East will just randomly slip in, like whether it's Miami, Philadelphia. I mean, maybe Atlanta. Atlanta's a team I feel like is really under the radar with that. It's wide open. Denver, if Jamal Murray comes back, there's no team that just stands out as a clear-cut favorite. Maybe the Nets, but the whole Kyrie stuff, who knows?
It'll be interesting to see kind of what unfolds with the NBA and all that goes into that. Now, how many teams do you think are actively gunning for that top overall pick with the Thunder?
Well, I think there's one. It's kind of conflict of interest, but I think the Orlando Magic are probably the team that's in straight-up contention for that top pick with the Oklahoma City Thunder.
It'll be the Magic. It'll be the Thunder. And if you can kind of put yourself in the middle of those two franchises, of course, you help us out a ton on Locked On Thunder, and you're a Magic fan yourself. Who would you rather be the GM of right now? The Thunder with all their draft picks and the young players on this roster, or the Magic who have a ton of interesting pieces, and kind of have a different outlook than the Thunder right now?
Not even a question. I mean, the team that could trade for three superstars and not be like indebted forever. And that's the Oklahoma City Thunder.
It'll be a ton of fun. I think that the Magic are going to be fun too. I think that the Magic and the Thunder can kind of join together in their suffering of their record this year, but also in the sense of they both have very young, talented players. I mean, is Mo Bamba actually going to get a shot this year?
Yeah, I mean, with Mosley coming in, he seems to be a fresh face. I know Steve Clifford and Mo Bamba didn't get along very well, but I think a new beginning for him. It's his really last chance, I think, to latch on. Like, if he doesn't stick here, he's looking at a Mario Hezonja career. Mario is out of the league in 5 years. I think obviously being Mo Bamba with his measurements and all the stuff that like people know him, I think he's going to get a little bit more of a leash, but this is definitely his last trial year with Orlando. Even if he does well, I don't know if Orlando brings him back.
So getting into this Thunder roster right now, How would you rank Josh Giddey, Shai, Dort, Poku, Tre Mann, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, Darius Bazley, and Aaron Wiggins? How would you rank those players?
All right, so I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot the list, but
Just
I'm
how
pulling
would
up
you
the
rank the
roster.
entirety of the young players?
SGA is clear cut number one. Number two, I think this is Poku probably. This isn't for now. You want me to rank like long term? I assume.
Yeah,
Or
how do you project them to kind of go throughout their NBA career?
Yeah, SGA. I mean, he's already like a 25 points per game guy. It's really hard not to see that being the number one guy. Poku's probably number two. Number three, man, there's a drop off here. Did you say Bazley, or is he not included in this?
Bazley's included.
Yeah, I'll use building block Bazley. Then I'll go Giddey, Dort. Man, this is tough. I'm probably way overthinking this. I'll go Tre Mann, Theo Maledon, and Aaron Wiggins. I think that. Did I miss anybody?
Jeremiah Robinson.
Whoa. Put Jeremiah Robinson-Earl over Tre Mann. One spot above him. That is cancelable from abstract.
Right, that's been your shtick all draft. You really believe in JRE.
I almost abandoned it.
you almost jumped ship. You've moved on to Kevin Durant, Evan Mobley. So JRE will be safe with us, though. Now you did something interesting there. You put Poku at 2, who's been a very fascinating player so far in his career, and you slid down Josh Giddey a bit. Now, what about Josh Giddey? Have you liked and maybe even disliked in the preseason? What have you seen from him, if anything, to kind of shape some of your opinion?
Yeah, honestly, nothing from preseason changed my opinion. It's just it's still my pre-draft stuff where I'm like, I don't know what the fit is like with SGA. It could work. I just really don't know the likelihood of that fit working out. It was a questionable pick, and that's kind of the consequence of that questionable pick.
Now, with Pokusevski, you put him there because of his ceiling, or because that you think he can reach a ceiling that would put him behind SGA?
Well, just looking at it's a little bit of both. Like looking at how he developed after the G League bubble is just he was two different players before and after. And you consider the fact that he came over from Europe as a second division Greece player in Greece, which Greece, even the top division, isn't that competitive. They're good for EuroLeague. They get a team or two, I think, in there in Euro Cup. And after that, there's a pretty steep drop off. It's not a very competitive league. And then he played in the NBA. That's a massive jump. And he didn't look completely lost in the second half of the season. And I don't think his skill set is exactly why he was bad. He just couldn't make shots. And I think even if he ups his field goal percentage and efficiency to below average this year, for the league, not even for he's going to be below average for a forward for quite a bit, but you can still be good. Kristaps Porzingis never hit 50% of his shots, despite being 7'3". It's not the only way to define a player. I think the path he's on is really just a high upside path.
That is going to be music to Thunder fans' ears about Pokusevski for sure. I find your list very interesting. It's very fun to kind of get the outside look of the Thunder. That's why I love to have you on, of course, with all your great draft stuff as well. We're going to get into the upcoming NBA draft and the top college games to watch this year, because we're getting pretty close. I mean, we're about a month away from the college season ramping up. You have media days this week, and it's getting here before you know it. But in terms of this season, of course, the Thunder will not be one of those teams fighting for the championship or even competing for the play-in or playoffs, most likely. There'll be a team that's going to be in the lottery. And how do you gauge this Thunder team, and how do you watch them? What should you be watching for with those young players to take that next step?
Yeah, so I think actually I started building out a list for each team of what interesting developments there could be this year. And Oklahoma City has some really interesting ones, starting with Josh Giddey, where he's a guy, it's what's his fit with SGA is, I think, the immediate question. How many minutes do they play together? What is that total up to? If they're positive in year one, in a year where most of the team is going to be negative, I think that's a pretty promising thing for the team and just for both of their upsides. And then also just kind of what the front court rotations look like. I'm really curious to see how they balance Bazley, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, Dort, what he ends up doing up top. I mean, there's a lot of different directions they go. If Gabriel Deck is still there and Isaiah Roby are still there, there's just so many different directions they can go in the lineups. I'm very interested to see what their best and worst lineups end up being.
It'll be fascinating to track that all season long. We're going to get into what each individual player can improve on this year coming up. However, first, I want to tell you right now, our good friends over at PrizePicks. All right, NBA fanatics, have you heard about PrizePicks? PrizePicks is a daily fantasy agenda made easy. I love this, and I know you will too. PrizePicks has the best NBA daily fantasy prop games on the market. PrizePicks offers more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator and offers all of the superstar players as well as bench players, only recording a handful of minutes each game. PrizePicks offers any prop you can think of, from yardage to touchdowns, even interceptions thrown, or three-pointers made, or turnovers, or assists thrown as well. All of your users that deposit can use your promo code and you receive a 100% instant deposit match of $100. Just be sure to use the code NBA. So use our code NBA at PrizePicks, and you're going to get that deposit match up to $100. You pick 2 to 5 players and over/under on the production and projections, and you can win 10 times on any entry. It's just you versus projected numbers, so it's going to be much easier for you to win in that scenario. PrizePicks allows mixed sport entries. You can take the over on LeBron combined with the under on Mahomes in the same entry. How awesome is that? Using the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play, entries can be made 60 seconds or less. It's that simple, that easy. PrizePicks is safe and offers fast withdrawals. Don't hesitate. Check out PrizePick.com and use the code NBA, or go to your app store and download the app today. PrizePick is daily fantasy made easy. PrizePick.com, promo code NBA. And we're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Richard Stayman joining me, Rylan Stiles, on the Locked On Thunder podcast, to our teams every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every single morning. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Show. Richard at MassDraft on Twitter, host of Locked On NBA Draft. Let's talk about what these individual players can improve on. Now, is there anything glaring about SGA's game that you think that you should watch for improvement this year? Because so far, he's been much better as a post player this year in the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think just pull-up shooting consistency is the main thing, right? Like, maybe a little bit, I don't want to say consistency on defense, but being consistently very good on that end. I think it's more of an effort thing. Those are pretty much the only two glaring room for improvements for him.
Now with Lu Dort, the obvious answer is rim finishing. He was very bad last year at finishing at the rim, according to Cleaning the Glass. Is there any other aspect for him, or is it just simply honing in on can he finish at the rim?
Yeah, I mean, I think the finishing at the rim for Dort is massive. Like, out of Arizona State, that was his big flaw. He was bulky. He was bigger than a lot of the players he was going against. He had shot under 50% at the rim, which is atrocious at the college level, especially for a wing. And if he can suddenly turn, I don't know if it's touch. I don't know what it is still. That is one of the biggest mysteries as to why he's not good at the rim. If he can suddenly turn that around, that's a big jump.
I mean, if Lu Dort can begin finishing at the rim and can improve on his finishing accuracy, then that opens up such a huge area of his game, because you're right. I mean, Lu Dort is huge. He's a good free throw shooter. He's going to get fouled a ton at the rim. He draws a ton of offensive fouls, the second most in the NBA, behind Kyle Lowry last year, and he's a good free throw shooter. So adding his finishing with his now improved three-point production makes him a viable offensive player and weapon for the Thunder, and I think can really take his game to that next step. If he can improve his rim finishing, what do you think the ceiling would be for this young, still Lu Dort?
Yeah, I mean, I think this last year he was a starter, right? But it didn't feel like he was a starter like that. When you say someone is like a starting caliber player, Lu Dort didn't exactly fit it. He was more of a specialist in a starting lineup than like a solidified starter. And I think he makes that jump of where he could start in any lineup across the league. I think that's really what you're looking at as one of the solid starters who does just about, everything you would want out of the wing position outside of some creation and obviously shooting off the dribble and things like that.
Now, what can Theo Maledon improve on? Because with me, again, it goes back to the rim finishing. He was very bad at finishing at the rim last year. Is there anything else in your eyes that you can see him improving on? Because to me, he's almost a ready-made player, because I think that his ceiling is going to end up being that of a sixth man who hopefully can finish at the rim and kind of do all the right things. But is there anything else that you'd view his game as?
Yeah, I mean, he was the worst finisher in the league, so he really needs to improve on that. And then the 3-point shot, it wasn't that bad. For a rookie, 33.5%, you live with it. If he can get that to 35, 36, 37.5 was the league average last year. I don't think that'll be repeated. You can get to that 36, 37 mark. I mean, that's a big jump. You're going to see an uptick in points per game, noticeable uptick. I think those two things are important. If he can cross, just not being the worst finisher in the league and then improve that 3-point percentage to be average.
Yeah, Lou Dort last year went 51% at the rim, down from 55% his rookie year at the rim. Theo Maledon in his rookie season at the rim, according to cleantheglass.com, went for 42% accuracy at the rim. So those numbers have to improve in the NBA. I mean, you just have to get better at that in those two aspects of it. Now, Aleksej Pokusevski. For this one, it's more undefined. I mean, it was clear what Lou Dort and Theo had to work on. And with SGA, it's just kind of see what the next step for him would be in general. But for Pokusevski, there's just so much you can pick from in this category. Where are you going to go first with what you first want to see Pokusevski improve on?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of two things. Either alter more shots at the rim and block more shots, or literally just make more shots, because 34% is not going to fly.
Now, with Pokusevski, I think that he's going to be a fascinating player to watch because it seems like he'll play with that second unit and be the leader of the second unit and control the ball and control the offense and have the offense go through him. And I find it interesting to see how his strength that he's added this summer can help his game get into the paint and kind of extend his 3-level scoring a bit, and also his good playmaking. And also the Thunder love just having everyone be able to play with the basketball. So it'll be fascinating to see how that goes with that. With Pokusevski, it's hard to pinpoint one thing because any improvement would be good improvement for Pokusevski. It's not like one specific area you want him to get way better at. Now with Darius Bazley, it's kind of the same concept of you want him to shoot better from three. You want him to be more aggressive whenever he's driving. You want him to continue to play good defense. So it's like, where do you kind of balance out with Darius Bazley on what to pick for this one thing? For me, it will be aggressiveness. I want Bazley to be a much more aggressive basketball player.
Yeah, I mean, the aggressiveness would help a lot. I also do think he is a little bit predictable in a lot of his shots. He's another guy, though, that needs to just make more shots, simply enough. I mean, 39.5% from the field this year, pretty much, and last year, too, or the year before, excuse me, both so his whole career. And he's never eclipsed 35% from three. On more volume, he shot 29%. Like, I think he just needs to make more shots, and I think that mindset is actually a big part of it for him. I think the aggressiveness getting to the rim will help, open up some of his 3-point shooting.
And the aggressive mindset will be big for him. And I think that the Thunder should put him in better spots than they did last year. I mean, I think that it's easy to kind of keep criticizing Bazley for the Thunder fans out there, but the Thunder did not put him in great spots a year ago. He's not a kind of player that I don't think that you can put in a corner and just have him spot up 3-point shoot. Like, that's not going to be his game in the NBA. And if that's how you want to utilize him, it's kind of a disservice to him. So I want to see the Thunder put him in better spots, moving him more off ball and allowing him to cut more and use that athleticism. And I want him to be able to be more aggressive whenever he does have the ball in his hands, because I think that one of his big traits is the fact that he's a nice ball handler and a nice passer for his size. He's also an elite rebounder for his size and can go the other way with that and run the fast break. So that's what the Thunder want to do in general. Whenever you're describing what Mark and Sam Presti are looking for, you're describing the traits that Darius basically has. So I want to see him get to utilize that at this level with the Thunder this year. Now with the rookies, it's hard to say what they should improve on because we don't have a baseline for them yet. But what are you looking for? Let's start with Tre Mann, because to me, with Tre Mann, you're just looking for how he adapts to the length and the speed of the NBA game in terms of creating his shot for himself.
Yeah, I mean, I think for him, it comes down to that space creation and hitting shots off the dribble, and if he can be that spot-up shooter, because like you've said, everyone has to play make, which means in turn, everyone has to be able to play off ball. In Oklahoma City, can Tre Mann do that? We didn't see it a ton in Florida. So that's something that I think his overall scoring, how will it translate, is something to watch for him.
I'm interested to see how that transpires there. Now with Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, I find him in an interesting battle with Isaiah Roby. I think that Roby has carved out a NBA career for himself to where he's going to be on an NBA roster. It's a matter of where will he be in the NBA landscape. Will it be in Oklahoma City or somewhere else? And I think that him and JRE are pretty redundant players, and JRE might be a better defender and be a better 3-point shooter to where the edge might go to JRE. So watching how JRE kind of handles that small ball 5 look, to me, will be the biggest thing to watch for him, because I think that we know he's going to be an average shooter, which is going to be good for his size. And then how does he handle now being the center in the NBA? Is there anything else from you who are so high on Jerry and that I'm like in your top 12 that you're looking for this year?
Yeah, I mean, I hate pulling the stat out from a preseason game, but I know we talked about it off air before the show started. But Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, the Thunder were outscored by 32 points in the 10 minutes that he went off the floor. Obviously, it doesn't actually mean anything. But my main thing from like a statistical point of view is like not the shooting, which I think it'll come along, but what's his plus, like the plus minus, the on off, all that stuff is really going to be interesting to see because. Like you've heard me harp on this show, how he does everything at least at a minimal level. Like he's a jack of all trades. He's that kind of guy. And I think that will translate. He's going to be the veteran on this team at like that play style, not actually like in the locker room or anything like that. But with his play style, I do think that he's going to be a positive player. And I just want to see kind of what makes him so positive. And I think it'll kind of stand out. I mean, I think you're going to see the limited mistakes. It's not going to even average like more than a turnover and a half, like things like that. It's going to really stand out.
Now, what's your gauge on Aaron Wiggins? Because to me, I think that he's going to be a very fun 3-and-D prospect that with given the Thunder circumstance of they love the blue, they love developing players, and they love converting two-way deals. I think that he can have an NBA contract by the end of the year. How confident are you in that aspect of it that he could be an NBA player on an NBA deal by the end of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I do think, I mean, I've said it before on here, and I'll say it again. His game is the most scalable game of probably anybody on a two-way contract. The 3-and-D mold, it translates so smoothly from college. It's a very projectable role. All you have to, I mean, it's literally hitting shots and just not giving up easy buckets. That's all he has to do to play to his skill set. It's something that he has done at Maryland for, I think he did it 3 years, right? And came out as a junior. And I don't see how that doesn't translate. I think somehow someone's going to get traded. The whole team doesn't stay the same for the whole year. They'll take someone's spot.
From the pre-draft process to his rookie season, what are you hoping develops the most for Josh Giddey?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to see the spot-up shooting. The shooting in general, spot-up shooting, and see how he is on defense. Because defense was an issue in Australia. He didn't try nearly as hard as he should have. Wasn't as good as someone at his size and basketball IQ. He only showed some flashes. He just was very inconsistent on ball.
So coming up, we're going to talk about the top basketball games to watch from college landscape for the 2022 NBA draft. All that is coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now about our good friends over at BetOnline AG. Back and better than ever, all eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back for another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for pro and college football action this season with updated odds, site interface, and more odds, props, and contests. BetOnline is your number one source for everything football. Head over to the website or even use your mobile device and sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Do not forget to use our code LOCKEDON to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. From football, basketball, baseball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Do not wait. Take advantage of the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your sport action. BetOnline, your online sportbook experts. BetOnline, where the game starts. Let's hear it now. But our good friends over at Built Bar. Built Bar is a fantastic protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar. Go to BuiltBar.com. Use promo code LOCK15. Get 15% off your next order. They have amazing flavors such as coconut, cherry raspberry, mint brownie, double chocolate brownie, salted caramel, strawberry, orange, cookies and cream, German chocolate. Richard, what is your favorite flavor of Built Bar?
Man, I love the cookies and cream. That one, I'm a sucker for anything chocolate related. So cookies and cream for me.
Every bar is 100% real chocolate on the outside. Richard, you love cookies and cream. I love cookies and cream. Josh Lloyd of Locked On Fantasy Basketball loves cookies and cream. You should be taking our advice and ordering yourself a cookies and cream box of Built Bar. However, if you do not want to take our advice, while we will be sad, you should just go ahead and order a mixed box. The mixed box gives you 2 of every flavor. You can try them all out and then reorder the flavor you love most at BuiltBar.com. Promo code LOCK15. BuiltBar.com. Promo code LOCK15. 15% off of your next order. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles, joined by Richard Stayman, who you can follow on Twitter at MavsDraft on Twitter. This is your first listen every single morning. We're here for you every single day on Locked On Thunder for free on all platforms, including on YouTube. For your second listen, make it Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Josh Lloyd will hook you up with fantasy basketball advice for your drafts as you prepare for the start of the NBA season. Richard, the draft is the most important thing in Oklahoma City this year. Again, what should we be paying attention to here in college basketball as we get started in a month from now? There's going to be some great non-conference matchups. What are you most looking forward to this year?
Yeah, honestly, the number one spot is so wide open. Last year, we kind of knew it would be Cade from the get-go. It was his spot to lose. This year, it's about 3 different guys that could all be different. Number one, depending on who you ask. And right now, because it's so wide open, there hasn't really been much going on. The international class is weak, at least at the top. So we haven't seen really much change at the top at all. It's a very wide open field, kind of like the NBA championship that we talked about earlier.
What is the 4 or 5 can't miss games for NBA draft fans?
Yeah, so I mean, it starts coast to coast. The 2 top teams for draft prospects in the country, they play each other November 26th. I think that's the day after Thanksgiving, and that is in Las Vegas. It's Gonzaga versus Duke. You get Chet Holmgren versus Paolo Banchero, 2 of the top 3 number 1 candidates, and then you also have AJ Griffin. Hunter Salas or AJ Griffin, is on Duke. Mark Williams is on Duke. And then on Gonzaga, you have Hunter Salas, Nolan Hickman, potentially Andrew Nembhard. Both those teams are ridiculously stacked. Another one that jumps out, Milwaukee is going to be a team that doesn't get a ton of press because they're the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee and they're in the Horizon League. But they have one of the top 10 recruits in Patrick Baldwin Jr. They play Colorado. And the reason I say Colorado is a must-watch game is they have one of the best returning young projects. Draft Twitter has been all over, and that's Jabari Walker. They'll be facing head-to-head against each other. Kentucky opens the season. Both of these teams open the season against each other against Duke. Damian Collins on Kentucky is an absolute must-watch player. Kentucky always has someone. I think Ty Washington is there too. And Duke, like I said, they're stacked. There's a ton of other midseason tournaments that happen around Thanksgiving. One of the other ones that stands out because there's the Maui Invitational and Battle for Atlantis always have some of the top teams, but the best under the radar one is the Hall of Fame tip-off, and that one is Villanova versus Tennessee. Will play each other, and then North Carolina, Purdue. All 4 of those teams have prospects. The winners play each other. The losers play each other.
That'll be a ton of fun to watch guys like Ty Chandler in that event with Tennessee and the players around the country there. So that's your primer on games you should be watching for in college basketball. Richard, right now, who would be your top 5? Because hopefully the Thunder won't be able to fall lower than 5. Just roughly off the top of your head, subject to change, who's your top 5 right now in the NBA draft?
Yeah, it's hard. This is I would like to preface this with almost all of this will change because 8 months from the draft, a lot changes. Number 1, I have Jaden Hardy. I'm pretty high on him. He's going to the G League Ignite. Probably whenever you hear the word hooper or whatever, it's him. He's a very flashy player. He makes Steph's range look like it's like to the free throw line. It's just absurd. He can hit shots off the dribble. Chet Holmgren is probably my number 2 just because he has the chance to be a unicorn. I'm a little bit skeptical because he's an absolute stick. Paolo Banchero is really solid. I think he's going to be probably one of the safer players in the draft. Some people question his athleticism. I question his shot a little bit more, just the consistency, but we'll see. Following him is his teammate AJ Griffin, but he's been battling knee injuries, so if I might sub him out for Damian Collins of Kentucky. He's kind of like a better Greg Brown. And then my solidified number 5 is Nikola Jovic, not to be confused with reigning MVP Nikola Jokic. He's not just Jokic with glasses and a mustache, but he is a little bit of a point forward that has one of probably the cleanest shot in the entire draft. I'm super high on him. And just for an honorable mention, Ousmane Dieng, he's playing in the NBL. He is going to be a stud. He's like a better Zaire Williams, I guess. There's a lot of comparisons to last year's class on some of the raw projects. And I'm a little bit higher on those guys this year than last year.
Interesting stuff there. We're going to talk all year long about the 2022 NBA draft and about the developmental players on the Thunder roster. Richard, this was fun. Where can they find all of your great work?
Yeah, Locked On NBA Draft. I do Tuesdays. Be sure to listen to the show. Raphael and the Draft Dummies are great. But I do also Mavs Draft on Twitter has just about everything I do. You can find all my stuff through there.
At Mavs Draft on Twitter, at Rylan_Stiles. For Richard Stayman, I'm Rylan Stiles. Until next time, be good and be good to one another.